Hello and welcome back to JJ Painting. I am JJ, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. Rather than reviewing videos, what we're going to do instead is just have a little chat about things. I'm going to talk about myself. I'm going to talk about the Warhammer lore, both 40k and Age of Sigmar. And today's visual delights, I'll be painting you a Judicar from the Indomitus set, which was quite new at the time of filming this video. It might be horribly dated in a couple of years' time. But hey-ho. It's still new and it's still exciting. So today, I'm just going to have a little chat about how I got started in the hobby. So when I got started, that was a long time ago. I first started playing the Lord of the Rings game, believe it or not, way back in 2003. I only remember the year because that was when Return of the King came out. And, I like the film, and I found, weirdly enough, a magazine, I think, in the newsagents. It wasn't even White Dwarf. It was something else by a different company who just put their models in their magazine. I think the first thing I ever painted was a Lurt, the Uruk-hai guy from the Fellowship of the Ring. That was the first model I ever had. And I had it until really recently as well. And I think I either threw him away by accident or traded him in. And I can't remember why I even did that, but it was sad because I had him for well over 10 years. And I kind of wish I'd kept him, but anyway, I no longer have him. But I was playing Lord of the Rings well after it kind of fell out of fashion, because if anyone who's watching this remembers that Rings took a bit of a decline not that long after the films came out and were after they left cinema. And afterwards, I eventually moved over to 40k because I still really like Lord of the Rings. I didn't even really look at the other two systems, Warhammer Fantasy as it was back then. I was just looking at Lord of the Rings because that's what I came in with and that's what I really wanted to play. But then eventually I moved over to 40k, like I said, started playing Space Marines, Ultramarines, as always, as everyone does, I think. I like my blue super soldiers back when they were metal, and there was about 6 plastic kits in the entire 40k range, and it was a great time because your cases would be heavier than a car battery. They were the best of times. They were the heaviest of times. But then I kind of moved around 40k for a little bit. So I was playing Space Marine still, but I had like my own 2 chapters of my own creation, actually, weirdly enough, at one point. And then I had Templars, then I played Orcs. It was a great time. I really enjoyed all those weird armies I had at one point or another, and kind of moved on to the next one, because I know that a lot of people out there did. And if any of you are sitting there thinking, oh no, I only ever kept one army the whole time, it's going, nah, mate, you're lying. You've had at least 9. We've all had at least 9 armies. No one's had just one army. Everyone's had more than one. And then I kind of circled back to Marines after going around the houses. And I had an Emperor's Children army, or Hawklords, or whatever they were called at the time. I don't even know what I even settled on the name eventually. I think I called them Hawklords at one point. And then that were a Codex chapter, if anyone remembers that one. And then they're the Emperor's Children, because I was reading the Horus Heresy novels. And this was before the Horus Heresy game came out, or even Forge World was doing Horus Heresy stuff. And I was like the colour scheme, so I painted up like Battle Company's worth of Emperor's Children from like all the bits of old Marine armies I had. And then I decided actually, sight on sight, to start playing Chaos Marines off the back of that, which was quite fun. And they've been my main army ever since. And I moved into Age of Sigmar when it came around a couple years later. I had a fantasy army. And I like my fantasy army. I had Warriors of Chaos. You can see a Chaos theme going around. But I just never really had the heart for fantasy as much as other people did, because the Games Workshop store I was going to had like tournament fantasy players, and that was it. And I just couldn't get into tournament fantasy. I just couldn't do it. I just was going, nah, this is too intense for me, man. Just give me a nice laid back game of 40k any day. And I never touched the specialist games because I'm an absolute Luddite as far as most people are concerned. And people always go, oh, you've got to try Blood Bowl. Oh, you've got to try Epic when it was sort of thing, and I got to try Necromunda, and you've got to try Battlefleet Gothic, and I just didn't really get into any of those games just because they just didn't click with me for some reason. But I liked the games I was playing, so I was happy with that. And I've been painting obviously over time, and I think the first model I ever bought just to paint was the Manfred von Carstein metal one when he was on his Nightmare mount. I'll put a picture of it right here in case you can't remember it or you've never seen it. It was a really nice model. I got it, and I got the White Dwarf how to paint thing. And that's kind of where I learned more about layering and blending and doing glazes and shading and all the rest of that stuff properly for the first time. And that was kind of like in the back of my mind from then on, because I'd never really figured out how to even highlight before then. All my stuff was really, really basic, like a wash and a base coat, and that was not in that order, obviously. But that's all my stuff was for most of the time I was painting up until that point. And even then, this was about 12 years ago. And then from then, I just kept practicing and refining and painting more and more right through, into my current years, as it were. And I have to say that it's been nice being able to see how the paints have changed over the years for me, because I remember back when you had just white spray paint, black spray paint, and I think the bolt gun, it was called at one point, spray paint, bolt gun metal, that was it. And now we've got red spray paints and blues, and it's lovely. Although we had a yellow one, which was great and made my life so much easier whenever I was painting things like Imperial Fists and an Orc army, and then they got rid of it, and that was probably the saddest day I had that week. I wouldn't say the saddest day of the year, because I'm fairly certain other things happened in my life that made me sadder than knowing they're not selling yellow spray paint anymore. So that's just a thing that happened. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think what kept drawing me back to it, because you know how most people dip in and out of the hobby, I certainly dipped in and out of it. But I like painting, and I came back to it quite a lot just because it was nice and chill, and I could just sit down and paint whenever and just do that, you know, whenever I had free time. And some of my friends were dipped in and out of the hobby. Some of them quit altogether, which, you know, it happens. And a few of them quit and came back a few years later, and we still play games. That's quite fun. And what I do enjoy about it now, like I said, is how things have moved along. So there are people that still pine for the old days a little bit, and I can understand why. But I just look at the models that are out now and the paints that are out now and how much easier life is painting. It might also be the fact that I'm better at painting. I was crap at painting with all the old colours. Like, I remember Scab Red being the base for all red until Mechrite Red, I think it was called, came out. And if this is really obscure, then you're going to have to probably ask someone who's about 30 years old if they remember any of this stuff, and they might, maybe, if you're very lucky. But the point is that when these paints started changing up and moving around, it made it easier for me to keep painting and to want to keep painting, because I felt like I knew what I was doing with the newer paints more than the old ones, because the old ones got very technical in a very complicated way for someone like me. And it was easier when you say, oh, you just got to layer this paint on and then wash it with this one. And I was thinking to myself, oh, this makes my life so much easier. I'm so happy with my easy-to-use paints that I don't have to layer on 14 times to get the coat to stop showing the black through of the undercoat, because that used to happen quite a lot. But yeah, so that's kind of how I kept myself painting. So this is a little bit of a rambly video today, but, you know, it's fine. It's a casual chat. You know, we're just here to chat. You know, you can tell me about yourself in the comments if you want, as long as it's, you know, in line with the YouTube regulations. You know, we're just here to share, you know. But anyway, back to what I was saying, is that was when I was still painting, and then I started... I offered, just as a joke once, to one of my friends who was pining after, I think it was like a Deathwing army or something, that he didn't like doing the bone colour on it. And I said as a joke, oh, give me some money and I'll help you with that. And he turned around and went, yeah, all right. I went, oh, okay, so name your price. So that was my first ever commission, I suppose you could call it. And it was about 20 Deathwing Terminators, a Dreadnought, and Belial, I think, the Deathwing captain character from the Dark Angels, Terminator army, all bone colour. And this was, for some reason, I decided to start from a black base as well, which was the best decision I possibly could have made. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. I tell myself that every night just to numb the pain of painting that army on a black base. And I charged them like 80 quid, which is nothing for that many models, because I had to build them all as well and paint them, which was a lot of effort. And I told someone else about this, and he turned around to me and said, Josh, you're getting ripped. Going, I'm not getting ripped off. Going, no, you're getting ripped. You're getting ripped off if that's the price you're charging. Going, oh, okay, fair enough. So I went to someone else who wanted something else, which I think was Space Wolves, about 2 years later, and it was like £300. And the guy who I knew who asked for the 80 quid Deathwing army, he like ummed and ahed it for like 2 days. But weirdly enough, the person who wanted the Space Wolves, he went, yeah, all right, pretty much straight away. But fair enough. That's just the way these things go. So that was my next commission. There were a few other ones in intermediary, but they were small, so they don't really make it into this chronology, as it were. But anyway, that's how I got myself into painting, and painting quite regularly now. And the other thing is that what I took from painting other people's armies is that it meant I got to paint more stuff, and I got to have a bit of a circulation going where I'd have stuff coming in, I'd paint it, and then it would go out again. So one of the reasons I really like to do it is just because it means I get to paint more models than I otherwise would. And also I get to paint different models than stuff that I'd be playing with. And it's that thing of when you have your army, you paint your models and you're kind of limited to those. And you can get like, you know, the odd bit here and there, which very much just becomes a piece for your mantelpiece or your display shelf. But it's nice to be able to paint a whole other army, like get really into it and be really ambitious with it as a project, to know that it's going to go somewhere else. And I'm okay with that, because I take all my lovely pictures, I get to look back on them, and I think to myself, that was a really nice project to paint, and then just move on to the next one. But yeah, so that's all been quite fun. And if I'm honest, what I'm up for next, just in terms of where I'm at now, is I'm looking forward to seeing what Games Workshop and other companies do next. I quite like the Star Wars Legion models, because, you know, Star Wars is always fun. Unless it's the new ones, apparently, which people hate for some reason, but let's not go into that, shall we? But I like their models in Star Wars Legion. I also like the bolt action models. I'm a big fan of the Titanicus models that Games Workshop also make. I like to paint those. So I'm looking forward just to see what keeps coming out and seeing what I get to paint next. So that should be fun, and I guess we'll see how we go from there. So here he is, the Judicar all finished. I did his base in the edit. You know how I love to make that movie magic work for my videos, as it were. So he's all done. Well, thank you again very much for joining me today at JJ Painting. More of a chat than it was today. I quite enjoy this sort of video. I want to do a few more of these as time goes by, so I'm going to see if I can upload these a bit more regularly along with my reviews. So if you want to see this sort of stuff, please comment below. Subscribe as always, and thank you for watching, my good friends. Have a lovely day wherever you are. Take care, and bye-bye.